Okay, thank you, Matt. Matt, can you hear me okay?
You bet I can.
Okay, folks, thanks for taking some time out of your Thursday evening. I almost said Wednesday, lose track of time, sheltering in place here. We're going to try to make this under an hour because we know your time is valuable, and we'll get right to it. We have with us, Matt's our district executive, and we have Jeff Falcon, our district chair, and Ed Lyons, who is our finance chair, right? Did I get that right? I'm new to the district. Okay, Matt's nodding his head. And they're going to kind of bookend what we're going to talk about here. But basically, the goal of tonight is to get you guys up to speed on how to put on a successful Friends of Scouting campaign. And Matt and I have talked about this, and we just want to make it very easy and for you to do this without, because I know we all have many scouting hats. Many of you are scoutmasters or committee chair, and I know firsthand the time that takes. So this is a sort of another thing we're adding on top of your duties. We understand that. It is necessary for us to do, as you're going to hear tonight, but we're going to try to make it as easy as possible. If you have questions, raise your hand or put it in the chat. And with that, I will get started with Mr. Lyons.
Well, hello, everybody. Again, thanks for joining. When as I've been my son has worked through the ranks of scouting. My eye always starts to twitch when I hear Friends of Scouting, because I know it's going to be an awkward conversation asking for help. I'd like to set the stage a little bit for kind of what's going on this year and how things are a little bit different, and how I think you can leverage that as you're working through Friends of Scouting. So first thing, the big thing that's different, obviously, is COVID. And COVID's done a few things. One, it's impacted our ability to operate the council. We can't have summer camp, and that's a major part of our income each year. We don't have popcorn sales, another big piece of income for the group. Another thing that's kind of interesting is that people seem to be engaged a lot more in trying to help out organizations that aren't doing so well. And the parallel that I'll use is a lot of people are going out and getting takeout food from their favorite restaurant because they want that restaurant to be there when COVID lifts. And they're willing to pay more for that food typically to help keep that organization healthy. And I think that's a culture that's kind of developing out of this, out of COVID. And I think we can leverage that as an organization as we're out trying to raise funds through Friends of Scouting. The other thing that's very different is our scouting families have been impacted in very different ways. Some scouting families are probably struggling more than they have in the past and may not have the ability to give. Others may be in very good shape and have the ability to give. So I think that's something we need to recognize as we're going through this. So I run a small sales organization, and I think of fundraising a lot like selling, right? You want to tell a compelling story about what it is that you're trying to sell to them. You want them to have an invested interest in investing in what it is you have. And I think that's the process that we need to go through. But the most important piece of that whole thing is making the ask. 90% of salesmen that are unsuccessful are unsuccessful because they never say, would you like to buy this product? And the fundraisers that typically aren't as successful are those ones that aren't willing to say, we really need your help. Are you willing to donate $200 or $300 or whatever the number is? So that's kind of the message that I wanted to get out to you guys today is think about what's going on with COVID. Think about, if I was pitching to a unit, I would probably acknowledge the fact right on the front end that, there's some of you that probably are in a position where you can't give, and that's okay. And that does two things. That makes them feel comfortable and safe in the environment. They don't feel like they're being pressured into something they can't do. But that also raises the expectation of those that maybe can't afford to give a little bit more. And it kind of gets a message out that, we may need more from those that are able to give. So I'm around and able to help if you need help. If you want to talk through your pitch, if you want to talk about how to make the ask, feel free to reach out to me, or maybe we can have a chance to talk at the end. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ed. Matt, can you give me screen sharing ability?
Yeah, sure thing.
I put the agenda in the chat a couple times because I don't think if you're not logged in, you won't get it, but everyone should get it now. So that is there. I'm just going to bring that up.
Do you have the ability now, Eric?
I
Oh,
do.
great.
Everyone should see that. So what Ed and Jeff are going to talk about is sort of what I would call inspiration and motivation. And Matt and I are going to go through some of the mechanics. And you'll probably find people that are, some people might glom on to one or both. They want to know the reason why, and they want to know sort of at a deep level why this is beneficial to their youth, not only their youth, but the youth in their unit and scouting at large. So in terms of background, a lot of people don't understand that scouting is a lot more than simply your particular unit. And in order to put on the program, there are a number of resources that need funds in order to operate. And you see this Google Drive down there. That's going to give you some more resources as well that will help you do your campaigns. But I think it's important to understand what Friends of Scouting monies are used for. And the first one, I won't go too much in depth of these. And Matt, if you want to jump in and add some more information, please feel free to do so. But probably the first and most important is year-round camp operation. We have pretty competitive weekly costs for our youth to go to camp. But the reason we're able to do that is because through Friends of Scouting and other monies, we can support the maintenance, the capital improvements, and other items that it takes to keep the camp going year round. Those of you that were on Facebook, you saw, I think Wente just lost 100 trees with snow and wind. The horses we have to keep year round. There's all kinds of capital improvements that need to be done in the off season. So that's a big piece of FOS. It's this year-round camp operation. Volunteer training that we do. Many of you have been through Wood Badge and other courses that we put on for both youth and adults. That takes staff resources. It takes printing, certainly volunteer resources, which are free, but to train those is typically done oftentimes with professional staff. The way we communicate, our website, our newsletters, our social media presence, we have to keep recruiting for scouts or the program is not going to keep going. And that's a big part of what district executives do, reaching out to new communities with scouting in our program. Insurance at camps, insurance for liability, insurance for our other properties, not the service center and meeting facilities that we use. We're not using that right now, of course, but in the future, once COVID is done, we'll continue to do that, and that takes a lot of money. Youth training, National Youth Leadership Training, that's professionally supported to a large extent, all the financing and accounting that goes with that. And then support for the unit, the fact that you can call up Matt or any other district executive and get some motivation, help, running through the national bureaucracy, getting your Eagle kits organized. So there's a whole set of services, and we use what the units see is just the tip of the iceberg. Below the iceberg is a lot more cost. So let me just bring up, oops, let me just down a little bit. This is in the Google Drive on your training agenda, and we'll email this out to you. But this is this year's iceberg flyer, and this might be something that you want to send as part of your campaign to the units so that they understand what they see is not anywhere near what it takes to support scouting. And you can see, I've kind of hit the high points, but you can see a lot of the other items enumerated in this flyer. So a lot of people don't know that. It may seem like they don't benefit from them, but if you can communicate to your unit, to your parents that it takes a lot more than to support scouting than just their troop dues. That would be huge. Matt, do you want to add anything to this piece?
Yeah, I think you did a great job, Eric, so far, right? The best analogy that we can describe to our parents and to all of our participants is this is truly an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg, I think the biggest thing that people might bring up this year is like, well, we already paid the CPF and we already paid our membership fees. Why should we continue to pay more? Well, we are a nonprofit, and in order for us to keep our overall prices low, for instance, the CPF, right, and other fees, we rely on the donations of others. Another one, I'll just bring up one invisible factor that people may not have thought of. Due to the fires in California, fire insurance for camp properties alone have just skyrocketed. So our fire insurance has, I think, gone up 300% over the last few years. And we have 5 council properties. So just insuring for fire purposes alone is quite incredible. So that's kind of the last little button I want to add to that anecdote.
Yeah, and again, people might ask, well, don't my camp fees cover all this? And the fact is they don't, because we want to keep those camp fees low in order to reach as many youth as possible. So we've got a lot of properties, particularly with the merger. They each have unique strengths. It's a great opportunity for youth once we emerge out of COVID to take advantage of all those camps. Any questions on that piece of it? Okay, so that's sort of an educational piece.
Actually, I have a question. For a large donor, the one thing they always ask for is there a financial statement. Is there a financial statement that if we have a donor who wants to give a lot of money, he or she wants to see where their money's going? Is there a financial statement that we could give them that's published?
That's a great question, Dr. John. Yeah, so there's 2 answers I got for that. We have some pie graphs that show like the very basics. For instance, 89% of our donations go back into putting on programs and events. And that's a wide variety, right? That goes everything from advertising the event to closing out the event. If they wanted to see specific dollar amounts, we have worked with donors to get that information to them in the past.
Is there a brochure you could just get together quickly with some of the information on it, some of those pie charts?
Oh yeah, for sure. So that brochure is going to be inside the Google Drive that we're going to email out at the end of this.
Yeah, because the one thing I'm thinking of is like people. It was a hard pill to swallow in the fall with those extra CPF fees and the $25 new journey and new joining fee, and so we're having kids that are even. I mean, their parents they aren't just doling out money. And you're right, scouting is worth it. I agree that it's worth it. But I think we have to go after the big donors, like people that run businesses and things that want to get their word out. And also, if somebody has a business and they like, for example, an insurance agent, like a church bulletin, if they get their name in the church bulletin for advertisement. Is there any way these people get any credit for that's visible that they could show for it?
Oh yeah, and Ed can speak on this too. Ed Lyons, he's our community. He oversees our entire FOS production, but he also helps out with the community events. So we're going to be doing a community event later in spring, in which case we're going to be looking for those big case donors. This individual FOS presentation that we're putting on tonight is for individual units, right? And that actual slice of the Twin Valley FOS is very small. It's much smaller than it was in previous years. So when I pair up with all of you afterwards to set up your dates, we'll talk about what the goals are for each individual unit, what's most appropriate, right? So I can guarantee you right now, no unit is over a $1,500 goal, which is great because in previous years, we were asking units to pull in somewhere around 2,500. Yeah. So we're working with what we know is attainable within our groups and what is possible.
What happens if they can't pull the money in?
Listen, we're not holding your feet to the fire. We're not kicking you out of scouting, right? We're just giving you a goal that we think is going to be able to be reached.
I'm just saying it's a tough area. You got to be creative. Like, our venturing crew, they were selling face shields. Somebody donated 500 face shields, which are very useful. And so they were selling them to local businesses when they couldn't get them. And one of the local insurance agents noticed they were carrying them in brown paper bags. So she gave her custom black bags. And then when she saw them running around town advertising her insurance company, she actually donated $300 to the crew, which was nice.
That's
You
great.
know, and so you got to think in multiple ways. And I don't think we're going to squeeze any more money out of the scouts or their families, but I think we should go to the businesses and the community, because the community wants these youth to have good, high moral character. They want to keep them off the streets and have them doing something useful, and that's what scouting is.
I agree with you, Dr. John. And there's multiple different factors on ways we can get this money. Now, we do have more to this presentation, in which I'm going to explain in
I don't want to
detail.
monopolize it. I was just mentioning a few things.
No, I heard you. I heard you loud and clear, right? This is a small portion of the larger portion. And we're going to talk about community as well as asking those who can give, because we don't want to take away the opportunity to those who can donate to our program.
And Dr. John, I think you'd be very surprised. You know, I know what I was when I went out to and presented to a troop that I thought were probably, you know, we get steady donations from that troop every year, and we raised a record amount of money at a Friends of Scouting event. So I think there are folks that are interested in donating, and I think there are people that are helping out in the community now, and I think we can get some of those funds that they're putting into the community.
Okay.
All right, we'll throw it back to you, Eric.
Yes, and keep in mind, and we'll go through this when we go through Matt does the presentation, but even if they donate a little bit and their company can match, you know, that's a good thing. And there's a website where you can look up your company, and I used to work for Chevron. I don't anymore, but I typed in Chevron and it brought me right to a place where I could fill out the Chevron paperwork in order to match the donation. So that's something to keep in mind too. Okay. So anyway, what we want to talk about now is hopefully a cookie cutter way to implement Friends of Scouting in your unit. And we've sort of talked about motivating. Jeff will talk more about motivation at the end of our meeting, but that's sort of, we've given you some ideas about how you want to motivate your unit. When I talk to people, I talk about what it's done to my boys. I'm very blessed with 2 Eagle Scouts, and you know, they would not be the young men that they are without scouting. So sharing personal anecdotes. I'm sure most of you, I'm sure all of you have youth that are in scouting, who used to be in scouting, or you were in scouting yourselves, and you can talk firsthand the value of the program. So that's just important to keep in mind. And Matt, I'm going to let you go over the meeting slides. We put together a PowerPoint deck for you guys that you can use when you have your first meeting with your parents. And it's not too long. It's only, I think, 5 or 6 slides. And Matt's going to go through how you would present this deck to your parents.
Right, exactly. Because, you know, we've all seen enough PowerPoints in our life, right? So why on earth should we sit through another one? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. So I'm going to give this presentation as if I were presenting to you all as an FOS presentation. So that way it's going to give you the understanding of the mechanics behind it, as well as some energy that you can put to it. Now, this PowerPoint slide is also yours to download and edit. So if you felt like you wanted to remove some PowerPoints, you wanted to add some stuff in, that is all up to you. All right, so let's just fire away here. So welcome everybody, welcome to our Friends of Scouting 2021 event. I know this is a very important topic probably in these days, right? We talked a lot about other nonprofits in the Bay Area. Let's just think of the Oakland Zoo. The Oakland Zoo almost went under, but the community came and they rallied behind the Oakland Zoo, and it's still here today and it's still operable. So that's kind of why we're here, and that's why we're doing this presentation on scouting. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the invisible costs of scouting, everything that's going on right now. You may think, you know, I've paid my troop dues, I have paid my summer camp dues. Well, what more could these people want from me? Well, there is quite a surprising amount of things out there that you wouldn't think about. For instance, I myself, Matt Lindbergh, right? I am paid through our FOS donations. Now, I work for a nonprofit, right? So it's not like I'm paid a healthy amount. But I will say myself and our other district executive staff, we are at a bare bones structure at this point. So we have, unfortunately, due to COVID, let 15 people go out of our office. And if our summer camps cannot open, there is expected to be more budget cuts. That is just the true nature of where we're at in these days, right? On a lighter note, right, let's talk about some of our council properties. Before we merged with the Golden Gate Area Council, we were the 6th largest program department in the country, which is nuts to me, right? Because we only had 3 council properties. But when I talk to some of my other DEs, my fellow people around the country, they either have 0 camp properties or they have 1. And the buildings on properties are a shack, like a literal shack, right? At all of our camp properties, we have state-of-the-art facilities that allow for both our boys and our girls to come on property and to feel safe, to use the restrooms and the shower facilities. So just maintaining the properties alone itself is such a high cost. We have 3 rangers that live on property as well too, and they help maintain everything. People think, I always make this joke, you know, we feed the horses in the back office right behind the coded keypad door. That's not true. You know, the horses are on site at our council properties too. So if you got any horse founds out there, you know, we got to feed the horses year round. So those are big concerns. And those are just a few examples of some invisible costs. So I've given you the what, now I'm going to give you the how. These are the mechanics behind what's going on right now. These FOS funds are essential to our continued operations. If you want this council to kind of keep providing opportunities and resources and learning moments for all of us, we need these donations. Now, of course, that comes up with, well, how much should I donate? I can tell you the average donation is somewhere between $100 and $250. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be in between that range. I'm just saying that was what the average. We have a lot of donors that donate much more than that, and we have a lot of donors that also donate less than that. We also have a monthly giving program too. So if you wanted to donate $10 a month, that actually benefits us more than a $100 donation right now. So there's multiple different ways to give. You can give right there at that link, but I'm going to provide that later in the chat. And then we're also going to send out an email later too. Something that I would like to highlight that is really important is our matching donation program. So last year alone, we raked in about $300,000 in just donated dollars via matching programs, right? Just via matching. So that doesn't cost any extra on anybody's part because it is your company that is matching. So there is that link right there that will take you to a site that will let you know if your company actually matches dollar for dollar. Now I can tell you there's also some very unique companies here in the Bay Area that all provide a donating process via volunteering. So for instance, we have a Cub Master, he works for Levi Strauss, and they donate $10 for every 1 hour that he volunteers, up to a certain amount, right? So think of that, like a Cub Master, the amount of hours that he donates that he then gets Levi to pay for is insane. So Eric mentioned earlier, Chevron also does the same thing, Apple, Verizon, Microsoft, and Dell. So we've got a lot of parents that work in tech. So even if they only donate $50, right? If they get their company to donate for their volunteer hours or to match that, that immediately doubles the impact and it has a much larger benefit for us. Now, if everything that I've said still hasn't sold you, I got a pretty neat program here. I'm sure a lot of you have seen our new council shoulder patch. Oh, there's the lighting. Really neat. This is designed by a scout in our council. So this is really cool. If you donate to our founders campaign, which has that link right there, you will get the special GGAC founders patch, which is pretty neat because how many people get to say that they founded a council? They were one of the founding members of a brand new council. Not too much. So this bad boy is going to go right here on my uniform. Cover up that one, thanks. And then it's going to be worn proudly so you can see that I was a founding member of the Golden Gate Area Council. Now, I've gone through the what, we've gone through the who and the how. I think the most important part is the why. Why donate to this program? What's the purpose? I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm sure a lot of you know that I was involved in scouting as a kid. I actually got my Eagle Scout through the San Francisco Bay Area Council. It was a very important program for me. What I didn't know is at the time, I didn't think it was important. I didn't get it. I just had zero clue. This probably comes at no surprise to most of you. I'm not very athletic. My dad, on the other hand, is an all-state athlete. He was in high school. He did it in college too. So my dad and I did not bond at all in Little League, soccer, football, you name it. Didn't work out. One night in Cub Scouts, we're about to go to bed. My dad and I were in a tent, and my dad says that he's just about to fall asleep, like, you know, just right about to fall asleep. And I said, hey, Dad, can we like hang out and talk? And he said, like we talked for maybe more 2 hours or something into the night. And he said he would not have had that opportunity had we not done scouting together. So truly, you know, whether you involve this with your kid, whether it's a you and your kid activity, or if it's just you seeing that your child growing through the program, I can tell you firsthand is incredibly important, not only for your kids, but for the relationship that you may have with your youth. Let's just take a look at this photo. So we've got a video here in case if I really haven't sold it to you yet. So we made this video. You can use this video, you cannot, it's up to you.
I joined scouting when my youngest son came home from school with a flyer and he said, "Dad, this is what I want to do." He brought me in, we joined a pack. I realized that I'd really missed the program and I jumped in head first.
I had great experience as a youth and I wanted to share those experiences with my own children and see them gain the benefits the same for the program that I did.
I had never done scouting. My husband had never done scouting, but we knew it was something we wanted to do with our boys.
It really wasn't just my 2 kids in Scouts, it was the whole family. And that was really important to us because everything that we did for Scouts, Girl Scouts, or Boy Scouts was a family affair.
I just think it's a good experience for them. I think that they're learning things that they don't learn in general these days. Things about being, like I said, good citizenship, responsibility, respect for people, things like that.
I believe in our mission, I believe in the aims, I believe in the methods, and I love working with kids.
We have really bonded with a lot of the families.
Summer camp every year was the best part of scouting and camping in general.
Your donations go towards year-round upkeep at our summer camp properties and maintaining low costs for camps and weekend activities, providing in-person training for leaders, and helping pay for our council and professional staff who support our scouting activities.
Providing financial support to that program just helps lay a foundation for not only my kids, but other scouts and the program overall.
I value the program a great deal. I've seen what it has done for youth, and I think it's a wonderful program to support.
Scouting provides so much value at the end of the day.
With any other nonprofit or anything else, you got to have people that are willing to put time and money into the program. And I honestly think that the program is what we make it. And so if we're not ready to support it and to give back to it, it's not going to be there for us.
I think it's important to donate to scouting, your time and money just to perpetuate the program, to give back to the kids that maybe need this, don't have this kind of influence in their life, don't have a positive role model, or someone that needs more of a positive role model, or just someone to be there to help them grow in a safe environment.
If we don't donate, the program's going to disappear.
It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is, if you can give a little bit, if you can give a lot.
It's a great program, and it's a worthwhile investment.
It's a really good way to officially help the community.
There you have it. So we worked with a close friend of mine to make that video. So I'm really happy of it. I'm sure you recognize a few faces. So the last thing I want to say, just to close this all out here, for if I really still haven't sold you on anything yet, right? If you put in the chat box right now that you will pledge to make a donation, you don't have to make it tonight, right? But if you say that you will pledge to make a donation, we have access to these Boy Scout masks. Can I get them right on there? There we are, right? So we will send these masks out to all those who put that they are going to pledge to our Friends of Scouting in the chat box right now. Everybody who says that they pledge to make a scouting will get one of these masks. And Twin Valley is the only district to have access to these masks. So nobody else in the council has these bad boys. So that's just a really new great opportunity. Thank you everybody for listening to my short spiel. I appreciate it, short or long, however you want to take it. Thanks for coming, and I'll see y'all soon. So that's it. That would be my presentation, just in case anybody wanted to know it. So I'm gonna toss that back to Eric.
Okay, thank you. So that gives you an idea of what the presentation should look like. I do see a question in there, which we'll get to about the bankruptcy. Let me do a couple more things and I'll have Matt address the whole issue of the bankruptcy. That's an important question.
You
If
got
I
it.
click, go to the bankruptcy. So Matt will take care of that. But let me just go over a couple more things. So how do you do this? There's really just about 2 or 3 steps. First of all, you need to schedule a meeting where you would give the presentation that Matt just did. Now, you want someone to give the presentation that's sort of a motivational speaker. And Matt, you did a great job. If you want to do that, that's great. If you want someone else to do that for you, some units like to have someone else come in and that maybe has more of a gift for this knack. Other units, they're more comfortable and more motivated by someone in the unit doing it. And during my time in my unit, we did it both ways. So I don't want to micromanage that, but if you want someone to help you out with the presentation, you can get in touch with us and we'll get Matt, I'd love to volunteer people, Ed and Jeff to come and basically do those slides for you to give that extra bit of passion. On the other hand, if you're comfortable doing it yourself and your parents would be more appreciative of that, then you've got the slides and the video and you can do that yourself. So that's sort of up to you, but that's really the first step. And in this Google Drive, there's a sample email that you can send out that announces the Friends of Scouting program. You set a date, you obviously do it over Zoom, and you basically go through the presentation that Matt did. And you can obviously, as Matt indicated, add your own content as appropriate. And so that sort of kicks things off. They've got the URL to donate. And then a week or two later, you can follow up with an initial email that just recaps what you went over and has the donation URLs in it. We've got a sample email in this Google Drive folder that you see there that does that. And then I would wait 2 to 3 weeks later and then follow up with another email to those folks that have not donated. And of course, the question is, how do you know who's donated and who hasn't? And Matt has a series of Google Sheets that he will give to your unit that will give you the status of who's donated and who hasn't. So it's very important to, when they fill out their donation form, that they indicate the troop number so that we can keep track of who's donated and who hasn't. But that email number 2, really, you don't want to bury people with emails. We all get tons as it is. When I've done it, I've typically sent email number 2 out only to those folks that haven't donated. And if you really want to be put a little bit more time into it, depending on the size of your unit, you can give them a phone call and say, hey, would you mind? I just want to make sure you saw my emails, and we'd appreciate that if you can donate just a little bit and remind them that their company can match. I think it's important that people donate any amount, and while their youth is in scouting, they get in the habit of donating, even if it's just $10, $20, $30, $40, and they can get a matching gift from their company. That adds up. So I just encourage people to donate any amount. We'd like to donate more than that, as you saw in the presentation, but any amount is appreciated. So this is really simple. Schedule your first meeting, use the slides and the video, promote the mass, a couple follow-up emails shortly after that, and then this Google Sheet will get updated periodically. So when you get the link to that, keep looking at that to see who's donated and who hasn't. And then we would like to get this finished up, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, by end of May, is that right?
Yeah, end of May. So we don't want to drag this on past June, and I don't think any of you want to drag it on past June either.
So yeah, you've got plenty of time to do this. And again, if you have questions or need help sending out emails or ideas about maybe you want to modify the slides, you can certainly email me. We'll give you all our contact information after the meeting, and you'll get the slides. You'll get this Google Drive with all the emails and other resources that you may need. So hopefully it's not too much. Man, I know you guys have a lot on your plate. I've been there, and this is just one more thing to add. So we're trying to make it easy. Any questions before we take care of the bankruptcy question and wrap up with Mr. Falcon? Any questions about the mechanics?
Yeah, will we also be able to get a copy of the iceberg flyer? That was a good flyer.
It's on the Google Drive. All of this flyer, the video are on the Google Drive. In fact, that we will.
I can share the screen of the Google Drive.
I was going to do that, but you're better. Go for it.
I'm not saying
I've got so many windows open at my computer, I just get confused.
So here's the Google Drive so far. So we've got a donation request follow-up templates. This is to be sent out after you've done your presentation. The FRS presentation itself, that's the PowerPoint we just went through. The video link is embedded into that picture. And in addition, there are also speaker's notes too. So I guess I could show that once I get this bar to go. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah, this guy. Right, so we got speaker's notes down here too. So you can check that stuff out before you give your presentation. How do I get this to come back? Why technology, being a millennial is so hard. Okay, the FOS video link itself too. So if you wanted to show it at another opportunity, the FOS iceberg, the one that Eric showed earlier. And then right here is a template email for introducing your friends of scouting too. So this would be like a, hey, we are seven days out from our FOS date. Don't forget, put it in your calendar. Here's the link to donate if you want to do it now. Mm-hmm.
Matt, if you decide to upgrade the video, include Ventures and Boy Scouts proper. That video is sort of Cub Scout centric.
That is true. Yeah, there was a handful of scout troops in there. I don't have any current video footage of Ventures. So when I am legally allowed to get back out there, yeah, we'll for sure be putting Venture Scouts in there too.
Well, our church has a video studio. They invested a lot of money in that, like a couple $100,000, believe it or not. And as a matter of fact, our my daughter's the council venturing leader, BOA leader, and so they're doing a video. They're in the process of doing a video on what is it, Rendezvous? The event they hope to have next fall. And so I could send you some of that footage if you want to try to include it.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I
Go ahead.
Can I make a comment? She Stickler brought up the idea of doing an FOS at a court of honor rather than having a separate meeting. I like that idea a lot for a couple of reasons. One, you've got parents that are feeling very proud of their youths as they're getting awards and those types of things. You also typically have other family members maybe on the Zoom as well. And I can remember in our troop, that's when we did our Friends of Scouting Live, was at a court of honor, because we've got grandparents and aunts and uncles and lots of other folks that might have been there. So I think that's a really, really good idea, unless you disagree, Matt.
No, I think it's actually encouraged to do it at the court of honor. We just always want to make sure that we don't drag it out, right? So we want to be quick and to the point, but still hit that warm fuzzy. Okay.
So one suggestion for your presentation, when you're talking about where all that money is going, throw in a couple of these pictures from the snow damage at the camp right off of Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Snow damage to the camp is for sure one of them. Oh, and I still owe a brochure. I need to put the FOS brochure into the Google Drive, and that has those pie graphs too that show how we receive money and also how we put the money to good use.
Okay, and then Matt, we had the question about the bankruptcy that we're going through, and will the money that we donate to FOS end up going to settle those cases? I think there's what, 80,000 of them or more?
Yeah, so inside of our Golden Gate Area Council, right, we've merged with the two other areas, and it being in the Bay Area, I can say it's not a small amount. Now, the good news is that the timeline for people to submit cases closed back in November, so we will not be receiving any new cases on this. Currently, a third-party system is going through all these cases in order to make sure the validity of certain ones, right? Because there have been some cases where somebody says, you know, I don't remember the year, I don't remember the person, I don't remember where it occurred, but I felt uncomfortable in scouting at one point, right? So that's the total legal fair process where a third party comes in and they assess all of the different statuses of the cases. So the Golden Gate Area Council has already set aside funds in order to kind of bear the storm of this. They of course don't know what the total amount is just yet. Unfortunately, on top of that too, well, this is a sore spot for me personally. They are really close to selling our San Leandro office. So they believe that it will be sold probably before summer. They're anticipating that. In addition to that, they are also selling our Pleasant Hill office. The reason that they have not been able to put up the Alameda office yet is because it's still on a 5-year lease. So we still have that property. So the sellings of the offices, in addition with those funds that we've set aside, they anticipate to largely cover most of the damage there, right? So the donations that we are taking in for the next season, those donations are almost literally to keep the lights on, right? It's to keep our functions running and to keep our program concurrent. So that is the answer that you can give to our families. These donations are to help us maintain the momentum that we have of our scouting program.
So it's
I hope that was helpful.
The Stan Leander office is gone.
The documents haven't been signed, right? But the full intention is to sell both the Pleasant Hill and the San Leandro office. The good news is, to follow up with that, they're anticipating that the new Golden Gate Area office be somewhere between Dublin and San Ramon.
Castro Valley.
You all. No, not Castro Valley. No, it'd be on your side of the hill.
Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we're looking pretty good. If there's no other questions, if anything comes up, feel free to email us. And if there's nothing else, I will turn it over to Jeff to close us out.
Actually, I have one question. Ed,
Sure.
Why don't you have any gumballs in your gumball machine?
Yeah, it's because it's bad for your teeth.
Okay. Just curious about that. That's all.
Yeah, no, actually it fell over and broke the lid. I've got to do some repairs to it. So.
Okay.
Thank you for noticing, though. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
All right, if I could wrap up for first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. These evening meetings, as long as our days have become, are hard to drag people into. The fact that you guys joined us shows your spirit and your dedication. I will tell you that the most important aspect to presenting this type of a scenario to the folks that you're going to be talking to, it isn't about what we're going to spend the money on. It's not about how we're going to use the money. It's about why we're asking for this money in the first place. And I can tell you the personal aspect, the personal stories are probably the most important element of all of this. I have to tell you, I was a scout back in the 70s, and I wasn't a particularly great scout. I didn't go to Eagle. I made it to I made it to Star and barely to Star. And frankly, I did not do as well as my friends did. I had several friends who became Eagles. But as years went by, before I had kids, when I reflected back and people would ask me about scouting, or scouting would come up, I would think of it as the most important influence in my life outside of the really big things, my parents, and certainly what I was doing in school, which wasn't all that great. But what I was doing in scouting, well, that was great. It made a difference to who I am, and it made a difference on the way I looked at the world. It made the responsibility I felt to the world around me. It wasn't all about me. It was not what they could do for me. A lot of it became what I could do for them, and that came from scouting. But I kind of lived it in the background until I had kids. And my first child became a scout in the early 2000s. And he didn't seem to be all that into it, but he rose to the ranks, became a patrol leader, and then a senior patrol leader, became a star, then outranked me as a life, and he became an Eagle. And I remember my kids telling me that they really thought that I was living vicariously through them, and they would yell at me about going to meetings. My second son also went through the program. Both of my older sons became Eagle Scouts, pulling in on their 17th year in life, 364th day, squealing into the parking lot and throwing their Eagle paperwork in. And frankly, I didn't think that was that important to them. My youngest son, he made it through first class, or maybe he made it to star. But what was interesting to me is how important the program was to them. I didn't think it was that big a deal to them. They argued about going to every meeting and really didn't seem that into it, but they did it. But funny enough, I read a college paper that my middle son wrote, and all it talked about was the experience he had in scouting and what he got from it and how important it was to him. And I look at them today and I see that my oldest son he volunteers on boards, is the newest Danville Commissioner of Park and Recreations. My middle son is constantly talking about scouting. It actually was important to them. And I remember when I became an adult leader for the first time as a ASM, I remember as also a business owner in the area, I remember thinking to myself, how is it possible that they are putting out this quality of a program? I'd go to camp and as an ASM, and I would see what they were doing, the quality of the program. I would see the quality of the programs at every single level. And I knew that at that time, I believe it was $60 per year. That certainly wasn't paying for anything. And it became very quickly obvious to me that this was the single best value, dollar for dollar, that we could have ever asked for in a program. It was an amazing program. But I didn't stop to think about how this was funded. The dues we pay simply go to belong to scouting and belong to the national organization and pay for that small institution in Dallas, Texas. But everything else comes from us. So what we gave in dues paled by comparison to what we ended up giving and our donations. And we ended up big. And I continue to do that to this day. And the thing I can tell you is that what makes a program like this, the FOS fundraising campaign, what makes it successful is your willingness to tell your story and to have others tell their story too, and to put your money where your mouth is. In fact, I got to tell you, I thought it was absolutely wonderful that while Matt was giving the example of how to give this, I think of the preponderance of everybody on this page and everybody in this meeting was in the chat pledging to give. And he wasn't even really asking you guys. I guess it was the face mask, I don't know. But the point is that it was effective. It was so effective that even though he wasn't making a pitch to you guys, we just show you how to do it, it moved you. It moved me too, as a matter of fact. And I hope I'll be adding to my donation just because of what I heard again tonight. And if I haven't sold you yet, I will take from young Matt's pitch. Then let me leave you with this. If there's no other reason than to think about the fact that our kids are in this program, and the fact that after they're out of this program, how critical that this program is to still exist for the kids that come behind them. And then when you get to be my age, you start to see the payoff in dividends of who these kids become. You'll realize that there's no other time than right now that these donations are the most critical. We wouldn't be asking them if it wasn't critical. So don't be afraid to give a presentation with passion. And don't be afraid to tell them why it's important. And don't be afraid to tell them why they should dig deeper than they were planning to dig. And most importantly, don't be afraid, as Ed so eloquently put it, to basically ask them for the money. Ask them. Don't beat around the bush. Don't present this and hope they'll dig in their pocket.
at multiple times, and especially at the very end, ask them to dig deep and donate and make a pledge today. In fact, a lot of them are going to be online. A lot of these are going to be online presentations. Ask them right now to go online and make sure that you put the donation website in your chat box and put it out there and follow up and follow up and follow up with it. So I can't tell you how important I believe this is. Here I am, my kids are long past scouting age. I'm still a Boy Scout, and it means a great deal to me, and it meant a great deal to my kids. And when I have them, it'll mean a great deal to my grandchildren, girls and boys. So that's my pitch to you guys. Be not afraid, ask for the sale.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Yeah, scouting is, we need leaders of character, and scouting is one of the few programs that has a proven track record over many years of producing leaders of character and values. Any further questions before we let you go? Okay, thank you all for attending. We did keep this just under an hour, so we met our promise there. Have a good rest of your evening. If you have further follow-up that you need, let us know, and we'll be sending out the link to the Google Drive in an email, so you'll have those resources. But thanks again for attending. We appreciate your time.
Don't be shy about reaching out.